So from a data center perspective, as you know, we work with most of you internet exchanges as well as ISPs, tier ones. So no differentiation for us as we are purely carrier neutral. So what I wanted to quickly review with you something that could be interesting for us in data centers as well as for you as part of the internet exchange communities, and where we see the trend of the internet exchange going as a pure data center provider. So happy to take any questions or comments because, as I said, this is what we see. It might be different from your side. So from the old days, public versus private peering, where do we see that going? Where do we see the internet exchanges being used for specific services and the future of internet exchanges? So in the old days, and by the way, that's not a photo of Interxion. I will not reveal who the photo was from. But this is how peering used to be done in the data center. So internet exchanges being present in 1 or 2 locations per country, very small. Peering was open to most of the ISPs, with obviously the tier ones being quite selective and restrictive. And the internet exchanges used to be used mainly for peering, but obviously IP transit providers used to use that as well for connection purposes. So public peering, where do we see as a positive? So clearly aggregation benefits. So instead of having multiple data centers or multiple locations, the ISPs will come to one locations and get together. In terms of administration, clearly one contract makes it far easier for the ISPs to deal with. It's also used as a selection criteria by customers, as well as a very cost-effective to go to one location instead of multiple. Private peering, clearly done by a lot of the tier ones, OTTs and CDNs these days. Why are they going to private peering? What they tell us is easy to monitor compared to internet exchanges. We talked this morning about DDoS attacks and so on, so some of the security is easier to be done via themselves on the private peering. Cost effective, with the costs of per meg network these days being so low. I mean, we're talking at the moment on the big tier ones at less than 0.1 euro per meg. When these guys run a 100 gig network, as we've been hearing before, sometimes it's cheaper for them to run a private peering instead of going through internet exchanges. So cost of ports, cost of upgrades, and so on. Scalability also, clearly it takes a bit longer for an internet exchange to grow compared to some of those tier 1 carriers. More secure, again, to go back to the DDoS attacks that we discussed earlier on. And as I mentioned below, so the big players prefer to private peer with each other. So just to go a little bit more in details, possibly. So when I say the big carriers and OTTs, so we've seen a big trend of some tier 1, I will not be special countries, but big tier 1 carriers, especially from the US or Asia, really realizing that the cost of the network is so low these days, and they prefer to do the peering over their own network, so private peering. As I mentioned, the cost per meg, and I've been discussing that with some tier ones, is less than 0.1 euro per meg, which makes it very cheap for them to do it that way. And what we've seen and what it means for a data center, so we've seen an increase of cross-connects between all those tier ones. So instead of the internet exchanges being, taking more clients and more peers, we've seen an increase of cross-connects. So talking to specific tier ones, they mentioned that this year they will be putting 500 new cross-connects just for private peering, and that's one tier 1, and increasing to 700 next year and over 1,000 the year after. Whereas they use the internet exchanges to less than 1% of their internet traffic. So quite a big difference there that we see. So what do these guys, as I said, tier ones or OTTs, see internet exchanges used for now? So they mentioned to us that it's to keep the names out, so as a bit of a marketing tool, so to make sure that you guys will know that they can be used or used for transit and so on. So they're still out there. They also use them for security and DNS services. So that's something that they want to make sure they keep. So where do we see the attraction of internet exchanges, and where do we see the new peers coming from? So we see them as more what we call the regionals, either pan-European or Eastern European would like to come to Europe, and so on and so forth, as well as local ISPs. So the attraction of internet exchanges is moved from being the big tier ones wanting to advertise themselves to a smaller regional group who is for them the only way in terms of cost-effective methods to come and appear with other carriers. So where do we see, as I said, from a pure data center perspective, and I'm sure I'll raise some eyebrows there, but where do we see, from our side, the internet exchanges going? And we do, as I said, work with Netnod, AM6, Links, DKIX, and LIX. So what do we see that the future bringing? So we do see quite a lot of those internet exchanges actually going outside of their natural geographies. So, as I mentioned, and I've actually stolen one of my colleagues' presentation that he did a few weeks back. So we see cross-border expansion. So DKIX is present in Marseille, and LIX is present with us in quite a few locations as well. And we see that definitely progressing. We also see the internet exchanges doing some deals with the megaports and the IIX and so on, so to be used as a way to cross-connect, so virtual cross-connect between different locations using those guys. We see them as disruptors because they clearly take the data center model away from us, but we also see them as a way to use the sort of international reach that they have to take you guys, so ISPs, to locations where you might not have the facilities to do it yourselves with the cost of networks. So where do we see this going? So the message, as we've been told, is quite clear from all the tier ones and OTTs, is they will carry on doing private peering. This is the way forward, and the message for us is we will see more and more cross-connects between all the tier one carriers. Across data centers. Where do we see the world of the tier 2, so the smaller regional players, is more around the public peering, so through internet exchanges going forward. So we want to make sure that we work with both parties to understand is that a reality, is that something that will carry on, is that something that you see, guys, as well as part of your day-to-day business, but also, is there any work that we can do maybe with Netnod? And as I said, we do it already with NLIX, DKIX, and so on to help you growing outside of your regional boundaries. Is there a consolidation potential between internet exchanges? As I said, we see DKIX in Italy, we see NLIX in France. What is the, where does it take the specific internet exchanges of that country to go to another country? Does that mean that maybe, I don't know, and I know Edwin and Berto don't shoot me, but NLIX merging with France IX, something like that, to avoid duplicating the costs and to try to maybe do a cost consolidation? I don't know. So it's something I'm open for discussion. And that's it from my side. So happy for any questions, if you have any. Perfect. No? Any questions? Thank you. Thank you very much.